Welcome to another Leading with Empathy podcast. My name's Daniel Murray, and my guest today is Nikki Beaumont. Nikki is the founder and CEO of Beaumont People, a recruitment company in Sydney that is just an exceptionally brilliant organisation to do work with. In this interview, we talk a little bit about Nikki's sort of humble beginnings, if you like, in the north of England, and that sort of persistent drive that got her to where she was. She stumbled into recruitment, but has really made an amazing contribution. A lot of her focus is on putting people first, and that floods all the way through Beaumont People and what they do, and it absolutely resonates through this conversation. Her risk taking, her willingness to take a chance, but also her humility and curiosity to find out more about people and what makes them successful. This is a great conversation. I'm sure you'll love it. Please enjoy Nikki Beaumont. Hi, Nikki. Great to see you. Hope you're doing well.
Certainly, I'm great to see you too.
Yes, I know you've just been to the dentist, so I'll I'll, I'll see how we go with your speech. I'm sure you'll battle through. I really appreciate you taking the time. Look, I'm really interested in, I guess, learning more about your background. You obviously, have formed such an amazing organisation in recruitment in Sydney and making a real mark there. But maybe go back. Why recruitment? How did you get into this space? And what was the journey to get there?
Wow. Okay. Big question. Thanks, Dan. You've set me up on a big one. I'll try not to go on too long because that could take the full 45 minutes. And look, I fell into recruitment like many people do. I was temping for an agency back in my early 20s out of uni. And, they said, oh, you're a good candidate. Would you like to work in recruitment? And, the rest is history. So I have been in recruitment, oh gosh, counting up the years now. I think we're about 36 years this year, which, it's a long time. So it obviously it was my calling. So, whoever that recruitment person was at the time, they obviously, they got it right. You know.
What about I guess what about recruitment do you think they thought, because I'm keen to explore what makes a good recruiter. Like what do you look for in someone? What do you think they saw in you that would make you a good recruiter?
Oh, well, actually, what they saw back then and what the realities of what we need now, or what I would look for now, are actually probably two different things. I know what they saw back then in me was that as a temp, if whatever jobs they gave me, and I did lots of short-term contracts because I was working in oil and gas exploration at the time, of all things. I was just a good temp. I was smart. Whatever jobs they gave me, I did them. I did them really well. The client was always, really happy. Always wanted to extend me, and I was just easy to deal with. I had a good work ethic, and I would do anything, go anywhere. I had my own car. So what they looked for then, with was all of those things that, looking back, that I possessed at that time. I mean, we are talking, I don't like to admit this actually that often, but we are talking about the north of England. And I was born in Scunthorpe, and it's a funny old place, is old Scunthorpe. It's, comedians make the best of Scunthorpe, but that's where I was working when I joined recruitment back then. Manpower, an office with just a couple of people at that time. But what I would look for now in recruitment would be, yes, all of those things to a certain extent, but now, I'm particularly looking for people who have got tenacity, because recruitment can be quite a tough game from the perspective of, the client's asked you to help find somebody, and it might be a purple unicorn, and it takes a lot of work sometimes to find the right candidate that actually really fits the client's needs well. So this tenacity is one of those things. I'm looking for people who really care about the work that they do, and that they care about people. It's a huge job and a huge responsibility. People say recruitment's a sales job. A little bit of it's sales, yes. You need to get organizations to talk to you in the first place and trust you to help find, the good people that they need. But I see recruitment as being about caring about people and about meaningful work, and that we do actually make a big difference. It's a huge responsibility. And,
Mm.
so, there's some of the things that I'm looking for, but there is quite a long list. So how long have you got?
Absolutely. And like, I think that's a really interesting part to dive into a bit more. If I was selling power tools, then someone might say, all right, I need a certain type of drill, or, I need this size of a tool, or this power, or there's some dimensions that are relatively, uh, I guess, objective to look up and measure. When someone says, "Oh, I need a new junior accountant," it's easy to almost look at it the same way and say, "Well, that's just a certain type of person with a degree or skill set or experience." But
Yeah.
is it that simple, or is what you're alluding is that it's maybe not that easy?
No, it's not at all. I mean, yeah, those are some of the basics that you might be looking for, absolutely. But there's a whole lot more to it than that. So one of the things that we absolutely insist on doing is meeting the clients face to face on site and taking a really thorough job brief. So if a company comes to us and says, look, I'm looking for a junior accountant, I'll shoot you through a job description, send me through some resumes, we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, no. There's we actually good job and get it right for you. We're not just placing somebody who's a quick fix. This for us needs to be right for both parties, and really it's a long-term relationship here. And we want you to hire somebody that you go, wow, how did you do that? How did you get it so right? So, even as simple as insisting on meeting the client face to face, going to the premises, seeing what it's like, what is the environment like, being able to explain the environment to your
Mm.
candidates. Is this the kind of environment that you're aspiring to, that you're wanting to? But there's actually a lot that goes on. The interview is with our candidates is really it's a full interview to really understand what is meaningful to the candidate, what they're really looking for, rather than a junior accountant job on
Yeah.
whatever the salary might be. So we like to just take it so much further so that we actually really get it right. So yeah, there is a lot to.
Well, and look, that's not without effort and cost, right? It takes a lot more effort to do that, and I think that's a really important thing for a lot of industries to consider is if it matters to get it right, you've actually got to take that care for both sides. Because again, I would imagine that there will be environments where you think, oh, this person has the skills, but I don't get the sense that they're going to fit with the culture or the way it works there. And when I say that, I think, oh yeah, that makes sense. But then I sort of ask myself internally, how the hell do you train people to intuitively know those sorts of things? How do you make sure that your recruiters know those sorts of quite intuitive, I guess, or instinctive type of judgments?
Yeah. I mean, look, we do, and we have to. We have a really thorough induction and ongoing training and development program within Beaumont. We do. But it is part of our culture. It is absolutely part of it. We do want to get it right. And we are inquisitive. We ask the right questions. And, we're very um, honest in our discussions, So if we are not sure if a candidate's quite right for the client, we'll talk to the client about it and say, look, we've got this candidate and they seem to appear with this and that and that, but we've got a question mark, if anything, here. And we just wanted to have a discussion about that. What do you think about that? Do you want to meet them anyway? Have a conversation, and getting that really thorough feedback after the interviews. That all helps to really get it right. When you take the references, if there's a slight concern, adding that into your reference questions and diving a little bit deeper. Or, the other way is talking to the candidate about the opportunity and talking about the need to actually make sure that it is right for them, rather than it just be a job. And talk about maybe if there are things that the candidate has said when you've interviewed them, actually really want an organization that's going to invest in me and my progression, and I aspire to be an accountant one day. Understanding and knowing if that's an opportunity within the organization, so that you can take it back to the candidate and go, look, we've talked to them about career opportunities, and this is what we've discovered so far. So either we can see that it's it is right from that perspective too, not just the salary or the location or all of those other things. So, it's often just down to the questioning that's involved. And, we have worksheets with questions on that people can use, particularly when you're new to recruitment. But of course, those of us who've been around a long time, it becomes natural for us to ask and understand the broader perspective rather than just, some of the key things, the skills, the experience, the location, the salary.
Well, and I also imagine that the more you get to understand both sides, both parties really well, the more often you'd be able to say, hey, like, I know this person's maybe not exactly what you're asking for, or, well, it doesn't fit all of the criteria, but actually there's some of these things that I think might really work, or vice versa. This person, it looks like on paper they're going to be perfect, but actually we don't think this is going to work out. And I wonder if you've seen that over time. Have you had different people who have seemed like who have turned out to be a bit of a diamond in the rough, if you like? They've sort of
Oh,
you
yeah.
didn't know, and then it actually worked really well.
Absolutely, and lots of those opportunities. And the usual is um, where the client's quite set in what they think that they need, and we've got a candidate that doesn't quite look right on paper. And one of the things that we like to do is actually verbally brief the client on the candidates before they see the resume, because when they've seen the resume, then they start to sometimes make decisions and go, well, I can't see that, or the resume doesn't look like, or there's a gap in that experience, or whatever it might be. Whereas we've actually spent time interviewing the candidates. So there's a lot of value in having that conversation up front and saying, these are the reasons why we've chosen that candidate for you, because
Mm.
you told us these things were important and these things, and they've got this, and I can see that they can add this value. So, you know, having that upfront conversation rather than just flicking resumes across is the way that we like to work. Plus, the other thing is that you actually do learn pretty quickly. You learn because you have those really open conversations with your candidates and your clients, and you talk to your clients about the different people, and you build a relationship over time. So, we're working with some clients that we've been working with for 20 years. And, we've built relationships over a long period of time, and deeper understanding as what they need, what works, what doesn't work. And, when we have that, it's great, and it works really well for all parties. We love
Mm.
that. It's important to us to get it right. And, you learn with your candidates, they get interview with some organizations and they go, yeah, that felt great. And other organizations, they go, no, it's not right for me. And, it's nice, isn't it, that candidates do choose now. Back in the early days of my recruitment career, that was never a conversation.
Yep.
If you were offered a job, like me, you offered a job in recruitment, you just took it. You didn't question it. You didn't say, can I work a 4-day week, or I'd like to finish at 4 o'clock every Thursday because I've got soccer training, and I want to start at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday because I've got Pilates. But you do these days, and I think it's great that that candidates know what they want, and will ask for it, and know enough to go, actually, it's important, and I want to get it right.
Well, and I think so, because first of all, recruitment is an incredibly well, it can be quite time consuming and costly from recruiting someone into your organization. But that's even worse if then you find out within a few months they're not the right person and we have to start again, or the impact they have is actually quite a negative or hostile one because of something that you probably should have picked up earlier. And so I sort of am interested in, I guess, we're stepping into a world of AI and technology and streamlining, and it would be easy to sort of think, oh, well, all I need to do is create a bit of a checklist of these are the things I want. But, I think the approach you're talking about is far more human and intuitive and relationship based. And I
Yes.
guess, do you see a place for both of these, or the way this might play out?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, absolutely right, that there is a huge amount of human connection that's still needed in there. In most of the work that we deal with, anyway, absolutely, I totally believe. There absolutely is a place for the AI and the automation too. And that's something that I think it can take place in certain elements of the process. but not all of it. I think it's a working together kind of thing. Is you use automation, you use AI for certain parts of the process, of the recruitment process, in terms of how we find people and how we match people, and using the database. So the database might pull up some ideally looking candidates, but it's actually only when you have the human conversation with them about what that candidate's wants and needs and desires are and motivations are, that it's through that conversation and how that connects with the job roles that you might be recruiting for, that's where the human bit really does come in.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, it is a human interaction for most of the roles that we deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think even you're hiring someone to do remote work. There's still the way they do it, the way they communicate, the standards. All those things still have to happen when we have humans involved. And I'm all really interested in, I guess, that relationship building. So one of the things I've noticed in my experiences with Beaumont People is just that you go over and above most others in terms of not just wanting to place candidates, but actually build capability and support organizations and get them thinking about things that aren't, squarely in the recruiting space, but actually are really important to them. And I guess the question is, well, why do all of that? Why go to that extra effort? Is it worth it? And what are some of the benefits, I think, that come back to you in the team?
Yeah. Okay, it's a good question. I mean, it kind of goes back to, the reason that we do all of that, it actually goes back to, for us, the importance of when people are in a really good job, in a good place where they're really well looked after. Um, so to get that, you actually need good leaders in place with good leadership skills to support the people that are working. So therefore, a lot of the work that we do and the support that we do is actually around leadership. So, you've done some fantastic masterclasses and webinars for us over many years, Dan, and we loved sharing your stuff because, myself as absolutely, I'll call myself an empathic leader. We love sharing with leaders that that's actually what works. That's what people want to work for, good leaders who are empathic, who have got good skills. So we share those skills because if we inspire and help clients that we have relationships learn, then actually that makes a better workplace for the candidates that we work with. So it all goes around, but it also helps us build better relationships and connect with our clients. As you know, we run an amazing mentoring program, which we've been doing for many, many years now too. And again, same thing, it's all under the same principle of really helping develop better leaders, creating better workplaces for the people that work in them, really.
Yeah.
So that's really our premise for doing that. And we've been doing it now for about 20 years, really, because Beaumont's 23 years old now. So right from the very beginning. Yeah.
And look, I think, again, for anyone in any industry, taking that broader view and saying, hey, if we can help our clients develop these skills, they'll be better organizations. They'll need to recruit more staff. The people we place there will do better. They'll flourish. Everyone, it's sort of this virtuous ecosystem we're playing a role in, rather than that sort of more reduced version that I see a lot of people think of is, what's my quarterly targets? How do I make the numbers? How do we get past the next hurdle? And I think it's I remember we spoke many years ago, and one of the values, the values at Beaumont People, empathy wasn't up there, but through our conversation, I sort of said to you, I think it's front and center. I think it's in everything you do. This idea of how do I understand people and get to really connect with what they care about and what's important to them. What drives that? Why did you sort of take that path? I guess you could have taken a lot of different paths with Beaumont People. You chose this one. What inside of you do you think maybe brought that to the fore?
No, I mean, it's a good question. I actually don't really know what's brought that to the fore when you think about it. I don't suppose I've been asked that. It's just, it just makes sense to me. I think I don't know if I really actually know any other way. Um, I mean, I certainly, as a leader myself and a business owner, when I set up Beaumont, I always was going to set up my own recruitment agency because I actually wanted to have a recruitment agency that actually looked after its people better than some of the experience that I'd had in my past. So, I felt I was a leader at a bigger agency and loved it for many respects, but I was always making these decisions up the top that really affected the people on the ground without actually really thinking about how that impacted them. And often impacted them quite negatively. And that used to drive me mad. I'd be forever, fighting the cause because I'm like, well, it was this big disconnect from the executive to the people on the ground. So that was how Beaumont became in the first place. That I actually wanted to have a recruitment agency that actually really looked after its people because, the people of the business, they're at the forefront. They're the ones that make things happen. And so, yeah, placing people first was, I guess, from my experience, and just one of those things, I just think it's right.
Well, and look, some organizations will say that. They'll say, oh, placing people first. And I think what you're alluding to, and I'd love to dig into this a little bit more, is some organizations say that people come first. And what they mean is our customers come first and we'll do everything for them. But then, as you said, internally, it's not the same sort of treatment. And I think the flow-on effect is if I treat my people poorly, then actually the way they treat the external client or customer ends up failing as well. So what are some examples of, I guess, how you've looked at the way you do recruitment and thought we can do this better, and you are looking after your people in that sort of way?
Yeah, I mean, we used to have the tagline many years ago. We weren't articulating this well, so it used to be people before profit. But we didn't like having the word profit almost being in our tagline, so we changed it to placing people first, which I think actually better articulates who we are and what we're about. I suppose one of the examples, I guess, would be the 4-day week when we introduced the 4-day week, which was, gosh, it's 4.5 years ago now. So it's been 4.5 years that we've been doing the 4-day week. So, I mean, I think that's a prime example of us putting our people first. Not that we weren't putting our customers as really high importance. Absolutely, we were. And that was one of the things that we were worried about in how we would make it work in the very beginning was, if people are doing 4-day week, is the customer's going to be looked after? What happens if a client needs to speak to a consultant and it's their 4-day week? And obviously, there's a way around anything. I'm quite entrepreneurial, and my classic stance is there's a solution to every problem. There's a way around everything. Just sometimes you don't know the answer when you first ask yourself the question. But if you think about it and talk to enough people about it, you'll find an answer in the end. So, just work through it. It's just going to
Yeah.
take time. So I think introducing the 4-day week is probably a prime example of being people first.
Yeah.
Things like, one of the things that drove me mad about working for some of the other organizations was they would change the way that you could earn commission for a recruiter to make it harder and harder. The more successful they were, the more they changed it to make them earn less. And I'd be like, why would you do that? Surely you do it the other way around. Because if they're and so I made a pact from the day that I started the business that I would never change the commission structure for the people in the business for them to be worse off. In fact, if anything, what we've done over the years is we've evolved it to make it better for them, and make it work better for them from what the original one was 23 years ago. So I guess there's some
Yeah.
people first. Yeah.
And look, I love that attitude of we can make it work. The number of organizations who prior to COVID would say, oh, we can never work remotely. It's impossible. We can't do it. And then, of course, COVID hits and we can suddenly make it all work. I think there's a recognition that that doesn't mean that it's ideal. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. And it doesn't mean we should always do it. But I think having that attitude that look, we can do things in lots of different ways and make it better and make it more sustainable. Because having worked with many of your people, they don't just turn up because they get a commission or they like the officers. They actually really love being part of that team, And I think it's a testament to that drive to say they care about each other first. They care about each other and supporting each other. Whereas I know sometimes recruitment can be pretty cutthroat at times, and it can be a pretty tough industry to work in. And so, do you see that? Do you see that sort of flowing back in terms of engagement and your team really enjoying it, or does it cause issues? I'd be an interesting sort of dive in there.
Um, absolutely we do. It does cause issues in some of the things that we do sometimes, because as any leader, is it a one size fits all or not? Are you being fair? I believe that sameness isn't fairness. Personally, that everybody has different needs at different parts of their life and their career in terms of how you support people to be their best at work and bring their best self to work. So sometimes the juggle is quite hard. When somebody needs this, somebody does need to work from home at the moment for different, maybe family reasons, maybe caring responsibilities. Yet at the same time, we're asking people to come in a couple of days a week, but there's somebody here that's not. So sometimes those things can really be quite challenging. I mean, the 4-day week can be challenging. It's great when it works, and I love it when it works, and I love what it gives people. But boy, it can be it can be challenging sometimes too. It really can, but we do what we can to make it work. And I think, you've just got to be open to trying things. I'm a Pisces, so I'm a dive straight in. I say yes first and ask questions later often. You give things a go. And I'll often say to the business, like with the 4-day, we'll just give this a go and we'll learn along the way. And if it works great. But if it doesn't, at least we feel like we've given it a go.
Yeah.
So I think I feel lucky that we're in a unique opportunity that we can give things a go. But that's what I like about not having the corporate handcuffs. You can make our own decisions to do things and not be too worried about it. I actually have quite a high risk profile, so I'm happy to take a risk and give something a go,
Mhm.
not knowing whether it will work or not, and knowing that there's a few reasons why you wouldn't do something. And sometimes it works really well, sometimes it doesn't, and it completely backfires and it doesn't work, and that's okay. I think you've got to be open to accept those things. But yeah, I think it helps if you've got a high risk profile in the first place.
Well, yeah, I think so. But also, I love that point that, sometimes we look at a company like Google or Facebook or whoever, Meta or whatever they're called, and we sort of go, oh, well, they did X. And so that must be the best way for everyone to do it. Beaumont's doing 4-day weeks. That must be the best way for everyone to do it. And I think, what you're saying is actually we still have issues. We still have rub points and tension. And I'm interested what happens, that point around fairness and equality. It's a fascinating one. I love it, because there is this idea that sometimes we have to make different calls on the same type of issue. One example, I remember working with an organization. They had a bereavement policy, and a gentleman's auntie had passed away. Now, auntie didn't fit into the policy, but his auntie had raised him because his parents had died when he was young. So should he have gotten it or should he not? And then people are saying, oh, but if we say yes to this person, then anyone whose great auntie dies will probably try and take advantage of it. And my view there is we have to have principles to say, no, it makes sense here and it doesn't here. And it's not black and white, it's grey. And is that sort of the way you approach
Yes,
it, to talk
absolutely.
through? How do you navigate the greyness with the team? Because some people want to have it black and white, don't they?
They do, absolutely. Well, you know what? I personally find that having a fantastic executive management team around me really helps in the first place. That we can talk to each other and do a sense check. So I actually had one of these situations only last week where I had to say to my COO, Jane, I was like, I need to make a decision on this. And is it the right decision? I just need to make a sense check because I'm thinking this, but what do you think? So I think it's really great if you've got good leaders around you. And we've got a fantastic executive management team. We've got fantastic full management team. We really have. So that but to start with, for me, is like really important. So I don't make all the decisions. I've got a whole team, and we all sense check each other. And I think having a great team around you are also happy and confident and comfortable to actually challenge you and go, actually, no, I don't think that's a great idea. And this is the reasons why, or have you thought about this, or have you thought about that perspective? So I think, with all of these things, and there's a lot of grey, there is in any role in any organization. And, I I feel comfortable in the grey. I quite enjoy the grey, and I enjoy the opportunity that we can be flexible with exactly those types of decisions.
Mm.
And like I said earlier, and that's where that comment came from that actually Jim made to me only last week when I was saying, yeah, but what about this? Because if we make that decision for that person, then is everybody going to want this? So she said, Nikki, different people need different support at different times. It's a good thing that you're offering and you're doing the right thing. It's all okay. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, okay, I'm doing the right thing. And it's just even having that, it's a really beautiful thing to have that team around you.
Yeah.
And we all work under the same values. So we're all understanding of the same values as who we are as an organization too. So,
I think you mentioned risk and having high risk tolerance, and the thing that's sort of coming out to me is that is critically important, but it's also having that with the humility, with the willingness to be open and to get advice and to have conversations and to be wrong. And I think, too often when I hear people say, "Oh, we just need to take risks," they too often partner that with, let's just go gun ho, trust no one else, just make it all work. And I think you're taking the risk, but also saying, make sure I surround myself with people who can tell me if I'm going the wrong direction and help and support. So I think that humility is pretty important there.
yeah, it is. I always say I don't have all the answers, at all. And 23 years of business, I can definitely hold my hand up and say I have made my fair share of mistakes along the way, plenty of them. I really have, because that's sometimes just giving it a go and not knowing the right answer, and trying to do something that's different or new or whatever it might be, but being brave enough to step forward sometimes and actually just give it a go when you don't know. Whether it's, I don't know, let's open up an office in Byron Bay, for example. People still take the mickey out of me and go, I mean, who else would open an office in Byron Bay? We've got an office in Sydney and Byron Bay. We have many offices now, not just those two, but and we've got a fantastic office, a really successful, fantastic office in Byron Bay. But
Yeah.
sometimes that's the fun part of the job. It's the scary part of the job at times too.
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I'd love to ask you a few of my empathy card questions as we wrap up soon. But here's one that I think is interesting in your world. How do you define success?
Ooh. For me personally, I find success when my team is successful first and foremost. So when my team is successful, um, I'm successful. I feel successful. When they're successful, that might be that they're really happy in their roles. It might be that they're learning something, they've moved on to it, they've been promoted, they're happy, they've just bought their new house, or whatever it might be, or they're loving the job that they do, they're working with clients that they really enjoy working with. It'll mean all sorts of different things to them. But for me, in my role, success is definitely when I've got a great team doing good things and they're really happy. That's it for me.
Yeah, which that placing people first seems to be very underlined with that as well. Here's another one. What's a song that really defines your childhood and take you back to the north of England, maybe? I don't know if there's a...
Oh gosh, well, there's a lot of songs that define my job, but the one that came to my head immediately is a Helen Reddy song. I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar.
Love it.
Yeah, and my mum used to play that to me as a kid, and actually I have it on my playlist. And when my mum's in the car, I do like to play her a bit of Helen Reddy and some Carpenters. And yeah, I love that song still. It gives me fuel, I think, to go, yes, I've got this, I can do this, for my own moments of doubt, of which there are many. And yeah, I think that's a good song for me. And I actually have an all-female leadership team. So we're all women here as well.
Love it. I love it. Last one. What's something you're proud of but don't often talk about?
Oh gosh. Look, I do have lots of things to be proud of. My obviously my team, my business, my family, my home. I've got lots of things to be proud of. What don't I often talk about? I think the people who know me well would know that I'm a real adventurous spirit, and I've done some other wild things outside of work. I've done a lot of charity things outside of work, and that was the basis for me starting the charity team and the way that we do things. So I'm an adventurous, very much charity minded person. Um, but I guess the big ticket item would be that we have now calculated, I think that we've saved charities about $47 million in recruitment fees because of the way that we work. So that's got to be quite a big number. I set a
Mm.
goal for 5 million. We are at 47 so far and still going. So that I think, but I have got lots to do.
No, that's amazing. And look, I would really, I just can't speak highly enough of Beaumont People and what you've built, Nikki. Your team are amazing. Every time I get to spend some time with them, it's such a great experience. And I know whether it's in associations or it's in charities or in any of the sectors that your team specialize in and do such a great job. It's just the only place to go in terms of recruitment. And I think that's again testament to this theme that has gone through our whole conversation of you just got to care about the people. You got to care about people as people, not numbers, and put them first. And the rest is sort of flows behind that.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that, Dan. Thank you so much for the opportunity. We've been working together, and I've been sharing you with my clients for many, many years because we love the work that you do. So thank you for always, being so fabulous with our partnership and so willingly giving your time on so many occasions. And we love connecting you with our clients. So it's a pleasure for us too. We really love working with you.
My pleasure. And so thank you so much. We'll let you go and keep resting up the dentist work. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.